was a curveball. It's a
go.
circus. Am I being set up here?
Hold on 1 second. So
my inexperience with this technology has put me at a disadvantage, people. And right now, Scott is chatting with someone, I believe, leaving me hanging here solo. So I'll just do a 2-step or something.
Trying to approve this. Let me see. Details.
Prove. I'm looking at my background behind my back, and I'm like, well, I got to change this up a little bit. It's just hard to do anything in here.
I'm gonna wait for people. Go into the. Hey, are we on the Facebook group right now? You'll check that.
Yeah. Hold on. Give me a second. We should be. Yeah, I see us there. I'm not going to turn it on because we'll get an echo.
On the group?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe we got around the whole.
Shh. Facebook is listening. I don't trust anybody. It's a good story, though, what you did, actually. 56 days, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So that's maybe you have a career in IT.
No. No.
Yeah. No.
No. I don't think so.
Okay. I've been wrong a lot of times.
Those days, that ship has sailed. That ship has sailed. So we're back on Facebook.
Yeah.
For tonight.
Yeah, I don't. Well, only if tonight. They catch on, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's a cat and mouse. It's a cat and mouse with them. So
and is it true, huh? They get more rabid, if you will, the closer we get to election season.
Yeah, they do. They get more aggressive.
They turn on more of the algorithms, and they beef them up with more intelligence.
Yeah, more keywords, photos. Anything with Hunter Biden just gets totally.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Down. Yeah, it really is how they're protecting that scumbag.
That is unbelievable.
The Democrats they are protecting. Anyways,
I've said no bottom.
This guy is the sleaziest guy.
I've said no bottom.
He's as sleazy as it gets. Literally, he's sleazy.
Well, there's actual videos of the sleaze.
I know
that have been seen. Like you can
won't be acknowledged though. Not be acknowledged.
There's accusations that are made that I say, it's accusations, right? Everybody's got, they can make their accusations, but this is actual footage. Yeah. Anyway, you're right. So, moving on.
Let me start off tonight with I want to talk again about I just got a text. Hold on. About 5 Fremont, because that is not going away. It's not going away. So someone just sent me a text. It says public meeting, subject 5 Fremont. Planning board, date is not shown yet on the town's website, and Board of Appeals on Thursday, October 27th at 6:30. Both meetings to be held at the Joseph Harvey Hearing Room, which is located on the ground floor, Herman Street side of Winthrop Town Hall. So the planning board's going to have a meeting, and we know that the Board of Appeals is going to have a meeting. They're going to have theirs on October 27th. So listen, this is the thing. This has nothing to do. And do you mind if I go off on a little bit of a yeah.
Carte blanche, my friend.
All right. This isn't about politics. This isn't about the left. This isn't about the right. This isn't about me. This isn't about you. This isn't about the people that don't like us. This isn't about the people we don't like, because the people that don't like us and the people we don't like should all be united. If there was anything that ever we agreed on, and this is only human nature, it's this horrific, this hideous, this monstrosity that they put up next to the Cross family house on 5 Fremont. I mean, listen, you don't like me, and that's fine. But you need to stand up for these people. This is a human interest story. This isn't anything other than a human interest story, and exposing and finding and bringing to the surface a travesty. And that's what this show is all about. An injustice.
Scott, have you received any information regarding what if anything would make the Cross family happy, other than obviously tearing down the building?
Which isn't going to happen.
Right.
I don't think so. I think the damage has been done. I think Mr. Cross, rest in peace, had to witness that. And I hate bringing this up, had to witness all that before he passed. God bless. And it's just, I mean, it's an injustice to those people, to that family. It seriously is. So I don't know if it's going to cost the town money. It might cost them money. This isn't going away. You and I are not going to let this go away. So let's get to Al Legee. His title is what?
Inspectional services. What is it? Building inspector?
Building inspector, right? Who signed off on this? Or he was witness to it, or in the chain of command of how this got signed off. Then he comes back.
I'll have something to add to that, but go ahead.
Then he comes off and says, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Okay, listen. My daughter washing my Mitchell and Ness throwback jersey that cost me $190, washing it with her clothes and had a pen in her pants. You know what that ended up. And then they went into the dryer, and the shirt came out with ink all over.
Are you trying to make a comparison of degrees of mistakes?
That's a mistake. That is a mistake, right? So she said, I'm sorry, Daddy. I made a mistake.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's a jersey. It's a jersey. It was a really nice jersey. It's a jersey nonetheless. To come back after a 5-story building's in the process of being built, and was in the process of being built. For how long? How long that thing has been going there? For a year?
I think longer, but
okay. And then to come back when it comes to the surface, and I'd like to think, again, we moved the needle on that. It came to the surface, and it was brought into the light by us, and, because the Cross family was just, this is the forum. This is the forum why we came up with this forum, right? To expose this stuff. And then to just come out and say, you know what? I made a mistake. That's not a mistake. That's not a mistake. You don't make a mistake letting a 5-story building go up in Winthrop that people drove by every day. That's not a mistake.
I had been posting pictures over a year ago when the elevator shaft was built, and I'm like, my God, what is going there?
Yeah, you did say that.
Right?
You did say that. Yes. Yes.
So, but here's the thing. So there's actually an Austin Faison angle to this now.
Well, let me just finish, and then
I'm sprinkling it in there. Go ahead.
Yes. There has to be resolution. So, but let's get back to the mistake. Okay. Where was his mistake? So this is my police brain. So you go beyond the surface, right? So if he told me I made a mistake, well, what was the mistake? I want to know what exactly his mistake was, instead of just being a broad stroke and saying, I made a mistake. What, Al? What is the mistake? Where is the mistake? That you signed something that the plans weren't submitted to the planning board? Did you sign something thinking nobody was going to know? Did you sign something for whatever reason? Where is the mistake in a 5-story monstrosity? Okay. That's not a mistake. You know exactly what you're doing when you sign all those papers. His name was on a bunch of things. You know, this wasn't a one signature like, Radar O'Reilly going to Colonel Potter or the other guy, McLean Stevenson, and saying, here, sign this. Mm-hmm. It's a lunch voucher and a 5-story building goes up. It's not a mistake, Al. Town manager. What's his name?
Anthony Marino.
Anthony Marino, this is not a mistake, because I heard he said, well, he made a mistake. This is not a mistake. Jim Lettieri, this is not a mistake.
We could ask him Monday night, by the way.
Yes. This, in my opinion only, was done purposefully, thinking nobody's going to pay attention to it. There has to be resolution.
There might be some indirect logic to that, but go ahead.
Okay, and I'm saying resolution has to be had for the cross-family. And again, down.
No, not coming down. So you go to the source. Somebody has to be accountable, and there has to be action. Because if there's no action, then this is corruption at its best, where you just say, we're going to put you in a desk. Don't drive around Winthrop for a while. We're just going to hide you, Al. We're going to hide you. I'm just saying something, and it's up to the town manager. It's all up to the town manager, right? Well, I mean, he would be the
something has to be done.
Reports to, yes.
If the Cross family doesn't, and I'm not speaking for them.
Well,
I
hope not.
No, I'm not. If in fact nothing happens to this guy, no action is taken, then it was all dumped on them. They got shit on.
Do you rule out the possibility that the mistake, or whatever word you want to switch out for it, isn't as egregious as you might think it is?
Well, just look what's happened to them.
Well, I agree. All right, let me rephrase that a little bit, because there's really, at the end of the day, when you look at the whole, I'm going to call the whole thing a major league screw up, and I'm being polite, right? So the whole thing is a major league screw up, right? So when you look at that, you're right. Like, there's no getting around that these people have been put out, period, the end.
The developer is guilty of it too.
Right.
Probably more than Al Legee is.
Well, I'm actually, this is where the Austin Faison angle may come to bear.
Okay.
we're going to get more information at some point. So right now, stuff is happening. There are hearings happening. There was I thought there was a ZBA meeting just this week it was on the agenda.
I heard that there was a meeting and it got pretty contentious.
Okay.
And there was a back and forth between the developer. I think this was the planning board meeting. I think this was what I'm speaking on.
Okay.
Is that the same thing?
No, ZBA. Well, maybe it was a planning board and not a ZBA. I didn't look. I was just told there was a meeting and I was not at it. I was trying to I was texting some of my contacts and they were like, no, it's this meeting, but I'm not at it.
Right.
So I'd have to go look at it. But anyway, the mistake, let's just boil it down to the mistake was, we signed off on a project that was based upon wrong information. The wrong information. So the building inspector uses maps, plot plans, whatever they're called, maps, plot plans. I don't want to get in over the tips of my skis here because
I think we all understand plot. Everyone that owns a property has a plot.
Yeah,
plan.
Right. And they also use what is it? An architect's plan, proposal plan to determine, you're supposed to go through the process to determine if this is going to fit, if it's going to meet code, all that stuff. So all the signing off that you're talking about, the mistake was already made. Allegedly, there was a wrong map used. There was a map that supposedly, I don't know, have all the details because it's all being, I guess there's attorneys involved with this part of it and the like. So there's going to be more to come on the mistake part of it. But apparently Austin wanted a new map made and he got the new map made, and the map that was used to go through this that was sign off on the project was the wrong map. That's okay.
Okay. So with that said, the plans were never submitted to the planning board, were they? I don't think they were.
They may not have been.
No. So if they were submitted to the planning board, which is why they have the planning board, wouldn't that be like a filter? It's the first step. They submit it and the planning board says, so what is this? Explain that, right? Then they make their recommendation. It looks good, or they say, this doesn't look good, right?
Correct.
So why did Al sign off on those if there was nothing submitted to the planning? He's been doing this job for how long?
10 years, actually.
He has to know. He has to know this is part of the process, right? I would think, unless he's just been signing building permits without, the planning board knowing about it. And again, it's if a tree falls in the woods, right? That scenario.
If a tree falls on Somerset Ave, bad joke.
So what I'm saying is there's a lot. Somebody's responsible for this. Somebody, maybe more than a couple people, didn't do their job.
And
they didn't do their due diligence.
No,
you just get complacent.
There's
what?
You're right.
Yeah.
But I want to see more information. I want more because when I hear Austin's involved,
as do I, because it needs to be dissected and investigated. It can't just be a surface thing where they say, well, this is what happened. Sorry, cross family. I just can't see it being that easy.
No.
There has to be a resolution. And as far as I'm concerned, the building already did its damage to the Cross family.
Yeah, they're never going to be made whole, but there should at least be a generous gesture of some kind.
There should be something. Something should be done in this case. That thing is going to sit there now because there's been a cease and desist put on it.
Yeah.
And so I just got another text. It says, the only reason why the issue of 5 Fremont surfaced was because the Cross family brought it to the attention of the town council during the public comment period of a town council meeting. It's the only. This is how it came to light. Why was the building permit granted without any public hearings before the permit was signed? Right?
Yeah.
So it's just like they tried to put up that 5-story building. And I know these aren't questions for you, Todd.
No, I get you.
These are just good questions. And they're talking about a 5-story building. This isn't like there's plenty of culpability to go around here.
Well, and listen, let's not kid ourselves. All eyes are on this project right now because every building in the CBD, which is an overlay district, which, as I understand it, means mixed use is already approved. So technically speaking, let's look at the buildings. Let's just look at the buildings, down the center that are right next to the Somerset Ave project. All those buildings could have the same exact size structures on that top of them now. So that whole downtown area, that look, it's going to change. It might be nice. Who knows where it's going to go, but
I don't know how people would get upstairs if there was a second story on any of those buildings.
Yeah. People need to just be paying attention to make sure this is done right. That's really all this comes down to. And I think, look, but I did have on some other matters, I had to get inspectional and services involved. So I did speak with Al, and I extended an arm to him, and hopefully when he's ready and comfortable, he'll come on and we'll get his side of the story on this, because everybody wants to hear it. So hopefully,
absolutely, absolutely.
Well,
yes. By the way, this is the second. This might be a long show, people. So we had stuff to talk about, but just think of this. This is the second 5-story building that they tried to put in Winthrop.
That's right.
Think of this, right? They tried to do it on Shore Drive. So the people that live in the Highlands, that don't really have a vested interest in Fremont, the people that live down the point that don't have a vested interest in Fremont, right? 5 Fremont. Or they think they don't have a vested interest in 5 Fremont because they should have they do have a vested interest, because what happened there could actually happen right next door to them. So what if someone was to buy the house next to you, Todd, right? And they just decided to make it a 4-story condo, right? Right. Well, it's a condo, right? It's kind of a 4-story condo. Now, first of all, parking is at a premium in Winthrop today. There's never been more cars in Winthrop, Massachusetts than there are today. It's never been this packed. The town, and you said this, I believe, there needs to be a moratorium, because this is getting to the critical point.
We have a lot of cars.
And congestion. And overcrowding starts, right?
Yeah.
And Suffolk Downs they're not even, when they're done, good Lord. Right? So Winthrop in its own is making itself congested by letting these 5, these 3, the Allergies trying to do a 6-unit condo complex, something like that. That used to be a 3. That's the on-street parking is it's insane. The infrastructure, and you and I have discussed this a number of times, the infrastructure in Winthrop is not made for this. It is not. When was the last time these streets were updated, meaning widened, or they never were?
Yeah, they don't even get widened. There's nowhere to go. What are you going to do? Take away sidewalk space?
Well, and now they're putting the bike lane on Revere Street, so there's a big chunk of parking that's going to be moving somewhere else now.
And by the way, when you say Revere Street, that project includes up to McGee's Corner at the intersection of Winthrop and Maine. So people, you got to pay attention. You're going to be dealing with these nitwits with their helmets on who are not following the rules.
But it's not their fault, though. The people that are riding the bike, it's not their fault.
The ones that don't follow the rules, it's their fault.
Well, if they get hit by a car, it's their fault.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not. We shouldn't be encouraging more bikes on these streets. We should. Every city they do this, more people get run over, hit, hurt, broken legs, and killed.
You know what's going to happen? Drivers aren't going to pay attention to it either.
They're not.
Literally, pardon the pun, it's a two-way street.
Well, and listen, you're right.
They're going to be in that bike lane, and it's going to cause problems.
I would argue with you that, to your point, that the car drivers are probably worse at breaking rules, but you want to argue the semantics? It doesn't matter. When that piece of steel hits you, you're freaking over.
Yes.
It's and not for nothing, but you get this stuff. Apathy creates this stuff because, one day you wake up in your hometown, you're 70 years old, you're retired, you're enjoying life, and you come home with the groceries because you're about to cook Sunday dinner for your son and his wife and kids, and you got to park down the street now because of traffic easement and bike sharrows and bump outs around trees. No, you are not respecting the community aspect. You're not respecting the elders who live here, who have charted the course for you young folks who are moving in here. And so
Winthrop is a beachfront community, and that's why people come to Winthrop, because it doesn't have that feel anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe it does compared to East Boston and Chelsea and Revere, but I can tell you, and Todd can tell you, a lot of people can tell you that it doesn't have that feel anymore, right? Because it's crowded.
You put a picture up on Facebook a few weeks or a month or so back on Winthrop Beach, and how many kids were on that beach?
Oh, none.
And but remember how many there were back in the day.
Back in the day, the picture,
the spot you showed is now a bird sanctuary with rocks closing it off, and
that's that ship has sailed. They won.
Gonzo, they won. We're out.
They won. I mean, Winthrop has the town council, the planning board, the the zoning board, the appeals committee, appeals board, whatever they're called. They all have to just get together and say, we need to stop and just let Winthrop breathe for a minute. Let it breathe for a minute. Take a look around at what's going on with houses going up in between houses. You know what I mean? Like, this used to be a nice lot. Now there's a house in between my house and your house where it was just a small plot. Like, it's kind of the squeezing everything in. Everything has a tipping point, and I've been saying this.
The unintended consequences, Scott.
Listen, and that bike lane, that might be, I heard that might be a requirement for all this stuff that they're doing now. It's not done by any of the people in Winthrop. We can't, no one's pointing fingers at anybody. It's not them, although they probably like it. And listen, you know what?
Someone works.
Be careful what you ask for.
Someone works with the people that are behind this stuff. Okay.
And that's fine. Be careful what you ask for, though.
That's right. And at the end of the day, if you want the grant money, you have to, the bike sharrows and the bus stop moves, rearrangement, and putting bus stops in, and those, I don't know if you noticed them when you were here, we have little information boards around town now, Scott. When you walk up to them, it's showing you the weather, the goings on, and the like. So that's all part of these I think it's all part of these safe streets grants, I think is what's behind it. I'm not sure how it's a safe street when you're throwing cyclists on it, but that's a whole nother, that's just a whole nother Save Winthrop from itself.
I posted that. I just wanted to see if the chat was working.
Look at you see if it's working. Look, no one's watching. Whatever.
Doesn't matter. It's about the rewatch. Remember, it's after views. Yeah. It's all about the after views.
Yeah, we'll see if we get people.
But 5 Fremont will not be forgotten. We are not going to let this go. Todd, you're doing a great job kind of skirting the line and trying to, get what information you can from it. What was that? Did you just blow me a kiss? What?
No, I'm cracking my neck.
I thought you were.
Oh, really? Blowing you a kiss?
No, I knew what you were doing. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
So that's my soapbox.
You feel better? You feel better?
No, I do. And I think people that think they don't have a vested interest, they do have a vested interest, because it could happen right next door to them. Someone could, like on Shore Drive, they bought a house, a single family house, right? And they wanted to put 5 condos there, 6 condos, 8 condos, 5 floors. That could happen anywhere in Winthrop. If you don't pay attention, it'll come into your neighborhood. And don't say, oh, now they're in the Highlands. Well, it's been going on. You need to go to these meetings. You need to be heard. You need to let them hear your voice. Say no more. Like, we need a break. Winthrop needs to breathe. And all right, I'm done.
All right, good.
I need to breathe, actually.
Have a glass of water.
Take some water from my King of Facebook mug.
Oh, we're crossing over. So this is an interesting segue because I did want to talk about a conversation I had with the precinct 2 counselor. But before I get there, one of the topics that the precinct counselor and I disagreed on was one of the changes we're recommending for the charter to have all at large versus precinct.
Right.
And this Fremont Street is an interesting case study because if you the concern about at large, and we'll back into this. I don't want to get lost in this topic right now, but we'll get back to it. The concern for some about the at large only style of government, if you will, instead of having precinct councilors, is only the rich can run. That's kind of the general, because it's town-wide. You need more signs. You need, depending upon how heated the race really is, right? But
true.
There's cheap. Listen, you don't need to be rich. I ran 2 at-large campaigns. I'm not rich. I raised my own money, and then some of the stuff I just did, picking up the phone and going, door to door, old school. It's free. Worked once, not so, and almost worked a second time. Anyway, so entertaining that argument, though I disagree with it, this is a good case study because who is the precinct 3 counselor? I'm sorry, that's precinct 1. Nope, it's not 1.
2?
It's not 2. It's 5. It's precinct 5. It's either 1 or 5, but I think it's 5. Either way, it's either Joe Aiello or is precinct 5 Fusillo, or vice versa. I think it's 5, and I think it's Joe. But regardless, where is the precinct counselor for this issue?
Yep.
Now, I have heard, I don't know if they're doing anything, taking any other action. I've heard other counselors speaking up about this issue, and I think it makes my point that at large, so the other concern, besides that you have to be rich, the other concern is, well, if, like, make the argument, if everybody from the maze won, then all you'd care about is the maze. We care about Winthrop because what happens down the point, what happens down the Highlands, that all impacts my property value too. It impacts where my kids go to school and the condition of the school that my kids go to. We care about the whole town. So that's our counter argument. But the point being here, this is a great case study. I argue this is a great example of why at large would be better, because the Cross family would have more options to call to get, or perhaps maybe an at-large counselor might be proactive.
How many at-large counselors do we have on the board?
Right now we have 2.
Have they stepped up?
So
do we know?
We don't know.
Have they gone out of their way to talk to the Cross family?
I don't know. One of them's Rob, so I'm sure he's probably at least reached out if he can. I don't know if there's a legal shut up put in place, like, hey, you can't talk to them. I don't know.
Wow.
But the other one is Tracy. That's the other precinct counselor.
And she hasn't.
At-large counselor, sorry.
At-large, yeah. So she hasn't reached out to him as far as we know, right?
Yeah.
I can ask the Cross family if any of the at-large counselors reached out to them. It does. Listen, reaching out doesn't mean you're coming to them with a solution. Reaching out is just talking to them. Be heard. Don't wait. That they don't have to wait to go to a town council meeting to be heard.
Right.
Listen to them. Sit down. Do your job. Joe Aiello or Fusillo or Rob or Tracy Honan. Do your job. Should have went out and sat with these people and listened to them. But no, they had to wait to go to a town council meeting. So they all failed. If no, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe they did. And hey, this is one of those things. I hope I was wrong.
Who lit the fuse?
I get it.
You get that one?
I get it.
So, all right. So anyway, we're going to move on now.
Yes.
So I had a conversation with John Munson. And at John Munson's
precinct.
He's precinct 2. We met him at his studio. He has his picture framing and picture, he's a photographer. Anyway, I've known John a few years now. Our kids grew up together. So I consider John a friend. I'm sure at this point, there's plenty of evidence to suggest there's been some bumps in the road. I personally am not intending to be personal with any of it. To me, it's everything about his business, right? Anyway, I wanted to sit down with him because one of the things I've always tried to do is seek to understand why. So, for instance, I wanted to know why John was against the recall language. And I wanted to know why he was against the all at large. And I wanted to know why he was against 4 years for the president, for the council president. And we also discussed, some of the opinions I have about elitism and the like. And so overall, I thought it was productive. I left the conversation hoping that John can not only deliver on his attempt to work with us, meaning the people on the Ordinance Review Committee, but also actually do it, like actually take the action he said he would. So one of the things so when we talk about why he was against the recall, I want to be fair to him. Similar to Stephen Ruggiero and Rob Carroll, and there's a fear that it'll be used to smear people. It's a cost to the town. There's a fear that you'll try to recall for anything. Okay. It's a very reasonable concern. It's one I worry about as well. What the trouble was the 500 signatures to get the question, if you will, on the ballot was too low of a bar. And that was the big sticking point. We had it at 500 if it was for at large, and I think it was 250 or maybe 50 for 250 for precinct, something along those lines. We had it up higher than what it would take for them to get on the ballot to be elected. It was a higher bar, but it wasn't high enough for them. I'd only hope that my next question was, why didn't anyone say anything to us? Right? Like, was I wrong to feel like they were trying to tear apart our work when they weren't including us? Because that's kind of what it felt like to the bunch of us that spent the 14 weeks together doing it. And I'm kind of going off the main point here, but that kind of goes into the soup, if you will, right? It plays into the whole equation. In any event, I thought that was a fair concern, and I stepped back, and to tie this to the elitist stuff, John and I went back and forth because his position was, it's not elitism. We're elected to vote on behalf of our constituents. Right? That is simply put, and it's factually accurate, right? Let's not complicate it. Section 9.6 of the charter is what addresses, the issue of the Ordinance Review Committee. And I'm trying to pull it up real quick just so I can, 9.6, periodic review of charter and ordinances. This is basically what sets the rules for it. Such review shall be made by a special committee to consist of 9 members who shall be chosen as provided in section 210A, which is basically the council president. The matter shall come before the council for action at its next regular meeting. That is the only call out in the charter as to what the council's role is. So in fairness to both of us, to our side of the discussion and their side, it's left to interpretation. Why I think this is elitist is they are elected to vote on things for us so that we don't have to do it all the time. John was 100% right about that. But when you're voting on taxes, property taxes when you're voting to put things on overrides, by the way, you put overrides on the ballot for the people to decide, right? You put debt exclusions on the ballot. The council votes to put those on the ballot for the people to decide. When you're voting on some of the more day-to-day stuff, fee structures, whatever, yes, that's what we voted, parking rules, that's what we voted on for you to take care of. Handling negotiating contracts with our labor, that's what we voted to put you in charge of, and managing our budget. Why would we ever vote? Here's how I looked at it. Why would we ever vote to put a committee together to let you vote to make your own committee to govern yourselves, like to make your own rules to govern yourselves? It's just on its face. And so that was the argument back and forth with John and I. I don't know that I got through to him on it. I was trying to make him see that,
Why even have the ordinance committee? Just let them vote on everything. Because that's what, if it goes to them, like I said, it's like term limits to a congressman. That's impossible. Term limits to a senator. It's impossible. They won't vote on it because it affects them. I
mean, at the end of the day, the framers, if you want to take it to the level of the constitutionalists, the framers, the of, for, and by the people, it just makes sense. We were picked as citizens to make those ordinance review recommendations. The citizens picked by the committee, trying to keep you guys out of it because it's governing you, right?
And then it goes to them to cherry pick.
Well, and that's exactly right. That's why I feel like I'm so right on this.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe John saw the light a little bit, right? But here's the art of compromise that I'm going to throw out there now and get on the record. So what I said to John, and by the way, I have absolutely no bargaining chips. None of us on the Ordinance Review Committee, we're done. They can do what they want and we cannot stop them.
Right.
We can shame them if we want to try. We can do all those things, but the only thing we can do now at this point is hope A, my conversation with John got some teeth, and B, they take it to heart, and C, I'm still going to plan on showing up to meetings and just ask the question, like, this is compromise. We said 500. I said to John, look, we'll do 50% of the last, election turnout. So if the last turnout election is 3,000, let's make it 1,500 signatures. Fine. You made your point. You're right. The bar needs to be high. All right, fine. Because I was thinking about it from, if it was for me to go and recall Phil, would I still work hard and get 1,500 signatures? I'd find a way. I'd find a way to get 1,500 signatures. Right. So yeah, raise the bar. That's fine. He gave us a happy grin and said he would talk to some people about it, but I'm asking all of them to see the light there. That is compromise. If they don't agree to that, does that not demonstrate a lack of compromise? Right? Like,
sounds good. Yeah.
I mean, 500 to 1,500, and we've had turnouts of 6,000 at times. So 6,000 people have voted. That means in that council president that wins in that election, you'd need 3,000 signatures, to get it on the ballot. Then it still needs to be an election.
Yeah. Do they understand that it's not?
Oh, you're frozen. Well, we lost him. Hopefully he comes back on. Of course, if we lost him, that means I'm gone too. Oh boy. Oh, I'm still connected. All right. Well, I don't know what he was going to say, but I'm going to keep running my mouth. Oh, I'm seeing if he's typing. I'm sorry. Hold on. So anyway, yeah. So now we hear you. Who's we? Say hi. Now I'm all thrown off. But can you still hear me? Because now Scott's gone completely. Well, it's still counting. Maybe something happened on his end and he'll be back. Oh, yeah, he's back.
Yeah. Right.
Did you type we hear you?
No.
Oh, it was Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Hi, Wendy.
I was just about to leave you and do it myself.
See, and that's the thing. I thought they were listening to me. So I don't know. Like, you don't know who's what. So both of us were talking, but one of us was being heard.
Right.
Hey, I was on top a minute ago. Wait, nah, we won't go down that road. Doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right. That came out wrong.
Gee, we're getting oh, good. Hi. Yes, John said he can still hear me too. Good. So that John hasn't called in, so that means I haven't gotten it wrong yet. Because I told him, I said, we're going to be talking about this, and I don't want you to think I'm sabotaging or making stuff up.
Oh, there we go.
And now you're listening to it you are really falling apart tonight.
This has been a bad 2 minutes.
Well, there's been a bad Monday for me, but it was starting to get good until you just did that.
Well.
So anyway, look, we were talking about the whole exchange about the recall language. I think John does agree. I think most people agree with safeguards.
So would a safeguard be a compromise?
I would agree that it's a compromise. I think honestly, they don't want the recall. They don't want the extension of the years. They don't want a lot of things, but it's what they don't want. They have no idea. None of us, neither side has any idea what the people want.
Now, these are issues that people need. Though there's certain issues. There's a lot of issues that the town council has the right, like he said. I agree, John. You're elected by your precinct to represent you and make decisions for them. 100%. And I'd say that 95% of those decisions is on you. But there are certain things. There are certain issues that the people should get a shot at. Listen, how often does it happen?
Every 5.
Right. But as far as, ordinances being changed every 5 years, right? How often does an issue come up? What's that?
Every 5 years that we get the shot to do this, in the history of the charter, we've never gotten this far.
Right.
We've never gotten this far. So this is another reason why they could be part of something historical for the community that I think we all can agree, if we get it right, we'll be just fine. It'll be great.
Look, and again, there's certain issues that the people should get a chance to vote. They can be heard. They're allowed to be heard if you let them be heard, right? You're not handing everything over to them and then just, okay. There are issues that the majority should have an effect on that. The majority of the people should be able to say, okay, and hey, listen, they might say no. They're assuming everybody's going to say yes to that.
Well, that's the thing. I can't help. And this was I made these comments. So while John's on the show listening, yes, these are comments I've made in the past. I think it's elitist to make the assumption that what you want is what everyone wants. I feel that way. I can't help it. And I think, I'll punctuate that with I hate to go off track here, but I'll punctuate that with the Somerset tree issue. I mean, if this goes the way it's headed and we don't fix it, handicapped people are going to have to cross the street twice to get by that tree. Or if we have a bump out, which is much more expensive, I guess, we'll be losing parking spots anyway. Either way, we're losing parking spots. So actually the worst option is the crosswalks, because now we have disabled people. So able people made some decisions for disabled people that puts the disabled people in a position where they have to cross the street twice to get by a tree.
I think the Americans with Disabilities Act is going to have something to say about all this. So that's going to play out. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Well, somebody just sent me a text. When did the town council discuss the Ordinance Review Committee's recommendations?
They haven't really. They're having their first meeting tomorrow night to discuss it, the findings from the Rules and Ordinances Committee. So Jim, the man that some on that council are just battling with constantly,
Right.
trying to be a good man, gave the Ordinance Review Committee the courtesy to take a look at it and, bring back a vote. They didn't have to. This could have been brought up straight by the council. There was no reason for Rules and Ordinances to touch it. But Rules and Ordinances had it. Rules and Ordinances was bringing back positive, negative recommendations. Basically, what's coming out, I believe, is going to be, don't put this on recall. We don't want all at large. We don't want 4 years for the president. And I think pretty much everything else is going to get put forward. What I'm hoping to do is at least save the recall. I think the 4-year term should go hand in hand with it, because that's kind of what the recall is going to do, is give us.
Are they afraid that Jim might get reelected, do you think? And then he'll be in for 4 years?
I'm sure some of them are.
You want to read that?
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for discussing topics fairly. Can you take a poll of your viewers to see who wants to vote on the proposed changes to charter? I would be happy to let the voters decide if they want that. Whoa. Especially considering it does affect us, but it only affects us if we stay on past 2025. I wish I could get a better feel of what Winthrop residents, especially precinct 2 people, feel. I mean, he's right. I don't know why they need assurances, but hey, I mean, can we take a poll? Is polling still allowed on Facebook?
They don't have that, no. Well, maybe in groups, but so we don't want to go down that road, because every group is biased.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Except for the slow cooker group that I belong to. They're very nice people. If you ever want to go on a Facebook group, and I've said this before, the people that give slow cooker recipes are the nicest people on Facebook. Just saying.
To respond to that, John, though, here's the other way to look at what you're trying to accomplish. Again, for me, it's about trusting the electorate, right? On balance, I trust the people of Winthrop. But you're asking for a pre-vote is essentially what you're asking for. But what you should be focusing on, in my opinion, is how do I, if this thing does get on there, which you and I spoke, and I think you pretty much agree, a recall is a good tool if done properly. At least that was the impression I walked away with. If that's the case, the way we look at this is, let's put the right guardrails in place that we're all comfortable with in case this passes. I mean, obviously, I'm hoping it passes. I think it's just another tool in our quiver, arrow in our quiver, to hold our elected officials accountable. I mean, God, of the 5 people, of the people who are trying to take stuff off of this thing, like, look, I'll call it out. Tracy's one of them. Like, she was always about, this is an old boys club. It's a white old boys club, or whatever. Why would you be against the recall language? It's just another tool to help. It doesn't.
So do you think personal conflict, personality conflict?
You want to know what I think it is? I think it's because I want it. That's what I think it is.
Right. That's what I was getting at.
I think it's about me.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, I think that they have to. Well, a mature person would rise above that and look at the issue instead of making it a personal decision. You know, a decision based on a personal issue with somebody. You're not doing your duty. You're not performing your duty 100% as a counselor if you're letting a personality conflict or personal issues get in the way of you voting on something. Listen, everyone has to take a step back sometimes and go, you know what? And I've said it. I've been man enough to step up and say, you know what? Listen, the One Winthrop group, whatever, I give them credit. They got something they wanted because they worked at it. And you can't take that away from them. I always say you got to give them credit. People need to be able to do that. take a step back and separate and say, you know what, maybe Todd's right. I don't like him. I don't like what he says. I don't like his beliefs. I don't like his opinions. But you know what? Separate that from making a decision, and maybe you could think of it and it'll come out different. Instead of just like, oh, Todd Sackler wants it? No. I don't care. I'll cut my nose off to spite my face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and look, I don't know how else we can go about this. I mean, I don't know if John executed and actually has sat down and spoke to Stephen or anyone else in that 5, that, we need 2 votes. We don't just need John. We need to be sure on, some of the other people who've said they're with us.
So, is that John that commented in?
Yeah.
I see Facebook user. He says, I believe in accountability, and that's why a recall is a valid tool, but if not carefully structured, it can be a very divisive tool and create a toxic environment. And that's true. That's true. But that could be said for a lot of things. You can't, what if? I always say, what if there was no such thing as what ifs? Would there be any what ifs?
Right.
There's always what ifs, but what if? But you can what if things to death. You can what if them for an hour. You can't look at it that way. You have to just.
If we're to the point where we are going to recall, like someone's actually going to do the work, we're already past toxic, right? Like, if we had another 3 years of Phil, and Phil continued to ignore the people who got him elected the way he did, we would have been well past toxic because we wouldn't have had a way to get him out. You're right, John. It is a valid tool. It's also a valid tool that can release pressure, because
I think
we need to be heard too.
Rational people will look at somebody that comes to their door and says, hey, listen, John Munson, we're trying to recall him. And I'd say, why? And they're going to say, because he did this and this and this. And chances are, if you didn't murder somebody, if you didn't get a DUI, if you didn't stay in the integrity of the position of town council, because you look at it as a position of integrity, I'd be like, nah, close the door. I'm not going to go, is he a conservative or is he a liberal? Oh, he's a liberal? Hang him.
Yeah, right.
Go get him. No, you got to trust people.
It's too much work anyway.
Look, people can be divisive in any way, shape, or Facebook is a divisive tool. Anything can be divisive if you're sitting in the chair.
What creates toxic environments too is lack of response. Look, people in general, like I'm too, but people in general, they bottle it up. They hold it in. But when they have a chance to talk to someone like me, private one-on-one, or in a group setting of a small trusted group, they say, we're frustrated. We're getting more angry. And I'm sitting here going, well, show up to a damn meeting and say something, just let it out.
Yeah.
People need to be heard, right? So in this particular case where everybody universally agrees that the community should vote on the issues, right? So let's just boil this down to its simplest thing. Everybody agrees, including John and the other 4 that are thinking of pulling stuff off. They agree the community should make the final decision. But what's happening right now is some of the decisions are potentially being taken away from them. And that can be frustrating. And that's frustrating for, I shared some names with John of people who have posted on our page who know a lot of people, and a lot of people have said to them they want a chance to vote on this stuff because they do. So,
and you can't do a poll on Facebook because the algorithm won't allow it. You're just not going to reach everybody that you think you're reaching.
Right.
They can push you down in the feed. There's a lot of things that can't go right with when you try to do that stuff on Facebook. Although it's a good idea, but again, if I put something out, who's going to answer it? Most of the people that follow me, most of the people that are my friends, and most of them are going to say, yeah, we want it. And then the people that don't like me, and there's, I'm sure, plenty of them, they're not going to say a word. Well, sometimes I can rub people the wrong way. But that's all right. It got me pretty far in life. It got me pretty far. I did pretty well for myself, rubbing people the wrong way every once in a while.
Quick sidebar. Your reunion that you didn't go to, apparently apparently I came up and I think it was a 50-50 split. I'm an a-hole. I'm doing the right thing.
That's good. That's good. 50-50 is good.
I thought that was pretty good.
50-50 is good.
That's pretty good. Anyway.
But I mean, I hope that they understand that they should just kind of put personal feelings aside. I hope that that's not the case. That's because Todd Sacco's bringing this stuff up and he's pushing it on that Winter Votes live stream. They're dangerous. Those two are dangerous. That's a dangerous show. I've already heard it. Yeah. I've heard it. I've seen it in writing, you know.
We're dangerous.
Listen, it's a show. It's a show with content, right? If it was just, you know, we could be a little colorful every once in a while, right? I could say, you know, well, I don't think John Munson does a good job. Doesn't mean I don't like John Munson. If I ever met him, I'm sure I'd like the guy. You know?
Depends on the day.
I'm not going to go like bulldog him. Well, he's a photographer?
Yeah, he's a photographer.
Well, my father was a photographer for like 52 years.
See, you got something to talk
about. I'm sure I got a nice collection of vintage cameras too.
Yeah. Oh, that would
collect vintage cameras.
I bet he would have interest in that.
And I started getting into the vintage Super 8s, the movie cameras.
Oh my God, yeah. My father had so many family movies.
3 minutes each. Each roll of film was 3
minutes. The little ones, but we had some of the big ones too. Oh yeah, so funny.
Yeah, I got a nice collection of cameras.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, Munson, nice Scott. See,
yeah. See, he likes me. I like him.
See,
Sometimes he might do something on the console I don't like.
I want to pause here for a second. The whole thing is seek to understand. When we seek to understand each other and self-assess. I said this to John. We were having a heated text battle. I'll let a little bit of our secret out.
So let me say something real quick. Text messages, I've always said this, how they're written and how they're read.
Exactly.
People have to understand how they're written and how they're read are two different things. How you read them depends on your mood. Text messages are a little deeper than people think they are.
Yeah, I didn't even thought of that. That's true.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
Yes. Yeah, he is smart.
I said to him, you need to took some shot back at me. I was kind of laughing on the other end because the way I look at it, when I go into those things, Scott, it's like would be like me and you having a shut up, you a-hole.
Well, that's how we met. That's how you and I met.
Right.
We argued with each other. Yeah. So people watching that have watched us for a year.
First loss on Facebook, by the way.
Imagine the back and forth, the stubbornness between me and this guy.
Oh my God. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was relentless.
I am a very easygoing.
Yeah, and you started it too. You jumped on it. I didn't even know you existed.
Yeah, I know. That's true. That's hilarious. I was forced my way into your life.
Yeah, well, look where we are now, buddy. Look where we are now.
Right?
So
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just hope they vote the right way. They vote the right way in the sense of how they look at it, putting personal feelings aside. And there's compromise. You're right. There's compromise. So maybe guardrails, they get some guardrails to put in there. Listen, what are the odds, like I said, outside of someone says something the wrong way? It's not going to be a recall. You know, Barbara Flockhart would not have been recalled. She took a beating from the people that go to the town council meetings. You're not going to get 1,500, 500 people to sign a thing to recall Barbara Flockhart because she made a slight on the Italians. I mean, you have to look at it. Don't be paranoid. Just understand. When you think everybody cares is when 2% of the people care. Nobody else cares.
No, and John John made this good point. All the same people are always the ones running and voting. Yeah. Right? All the same people. So really, the reason we're shrinking wanting to shrink the size of the councils because we won't have so many people running unopposed all the time. We know that
That's a problem. Yeah.
We all acknowledge that it's the same people with very few exceptions running all the time. It's the same group.
How about if they do precincts, but each counselor gets 2 precincts? Well, I'm just going to say it. They seem to barely pay attention to the one they already have.
I mean, honestly, seriously. And you know what? In fairness, like I was not a precinct counselor, but I know how much time these things can take as a school committee member. It's probably worse for precinct counselors because they have more committees they sit on, and they have the whole town. I only have the school.
And also, how's this? Do they get paid?
Very, very, very little.
Okay. Somebody had actually suggested to me that what if you paid them a little more? Would you get people to run then?
We debated that.
You know what I mean? Just give them a little more, pay, and you might get more people saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm in it for the money, but now I'm interested because it's worth my while.
Well, it's also, hey, I can't do this because I need to work this part-time job to make X dollars. Well, if we could replace that part-time job with, look, the real number for me, candidly, for the counselors is probably somewhere in the 20 grand for the year and maybe 25 for the president, because they do put in the hours. Well, for timeout, they should put in the hours. They may not in many cases because they just can't. They don't have them available. They may not because they're burnt out and they've lost the interest. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, we can get hours out of them, and I think we should give them the money. But that would be that's 140K.
So, we're trying to get rid of 7, right?
We're trying to get it. No, we're at 9 right now. We want to get
at 9. We want to get it to 7.
Get
right?
it to 7. That's the goal.
So, I mean,
we wanted to pay them more, but we weren't comfortable coming up with the number. So we thought that that's something that the council should really.
And also, if you pay them that, and I'm all for that.
Yep.
It's incentive to now you have to work for your money, right? Because if you don't,
I'm not.
People are going to say, "Oh, he's he or she is they're just collecting a paycheck." Well, you don't want to be that councilman. You don't want to be that guy,
right? You want to do something.
Yeah, you want to say, "Hey, I'm earning my money. I'm getting paid, like a part-time job for this. I'm in my town, and I'm putting in the work. I think that's extremely reasonable.
I think that it encourages good behavior, paying people, because when you don't pay them, it's very easy. And listen, I was on the school committee for 4 years. Trust and believe, there were times I said, you know what, I'm not paying paid. I'm not doing this right now. I'm not doing it right now. Right.
Yeah.
It happens.
You would get more people to run too.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe the right people.
I think
I'm not saying that I came out wrong. Who's to say the voters say who's right and who's not?
Well, that's okay. You can have your opinion. You're entitled.
Somebody just sent me a text saying, encourage viewers to contact their precinct town councilor, each councilor at large, on a regular basis. Call, email, or whatever, and share your point of view on the issues du jour of the day. In other words, help our town council. So, are they all accessible?
They are, but
they're all accessible, right?
They don't respond to emails for a couple of reasons. They've been given this idea that if you receive an email that includes the all of the council people's names and you reply all, you are violating open meeting law. It's not true. It depends on the content of the email. But everybody's so paranoid about nothing happening to them because
there's so many violations of the open meeting laws that have happened.
You know how many freaking ethics violations I filed or whatever it's called? Nothing happened.
So how's this? Don't reply in the email, right? Don't
direct,
reply and answer. Ask them what their phone number is. Tell them get their thing on the side, because their email address is there.
Yep.
Let me see. Counselors get and just do it that way. You don't have to reply all. Nobody should ever reply all. Reply all is really never good. Let's see. Councilors get $2,500 a year, and I believe town council president gets $5,000. I think the town council president deserves more. Definitely, the amount of time they spend to help run this town is enormous. Like I said, so that isn't something that would be. How would that issue be brought up? How the town councilors should be getting paid more to do their job? How does that? What is the process? Do you know?
Well, yes, we could take it up at the ORC. What I would like to see actually they could, I believe the council could vote to add the question, come up with a figure, put it on the ballot.
And then if let the people decide, they're the taxpayers.
Yeah. We don't have to suggest the change. You guys can do it without us. You can suggest the change. Oh no, wait a minute. Does it have to be a proposal? And then
I would think it has to be a proposal. They can't just vote themselves a raise.
Right. Yeah. I think we'd have to make a proposal. You're right, John. And then but you know what? We weren't comfortable because we didn't know the right number. So we dropped it. So that's going to keep happening. We have to figure out a way to have someone that serves give us some feedback and then make a suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, get a suggestion from each councilor, what they think their value is. A reasonable value.
Yep.
As the amount of time they put in. And I guarantee you'll get, different numbers, some high, some low, and just figure it out from the middle. But the town council president definitely should get more money.
Hey, I'm throwing that on John's lap because the councilors, for the most part, aren't going to respond to me. I only got a couple that answer me. So,
right.
You heard the idea, John. Take it up.
So, what if they got $500 a month? What's that? How much is that? 12,000.
6,000.
6,000. I mean, right?
6,000 a year. Yep.
And how much do they get right now? 2,500.
Yeah. So it's what.
So you're more than doubling it. You're more than doubling it, right? And then just incremental increases. No,
I honestly, dude, I need 10,000 and 15,000.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
15,
pay the
sure.
people.
Yeah.
Pay them. You know, the problem is, oh boy, that's $100,000 a year that comes out of the budget on a very thin budget. I'm for it, but it's going to cause a rift across the labor unions. Make no mistake.
Well, the labor unions aren't running the town.
I agree 110%.
The labor unions just worry about their union members.
You say that.
The town council is, but I think if they get paid, they would all have to be at large. I would think it would be an all at large.
Why?
Because it's equal work. They're all getting paid now, and they're not limited to, well, my precinct, because that would come up. My precinct's busier than your precinct.
You gotta get the airport in my backyard. That's
right.
Precinct 3 and 2.
Right. So
right.
I mean, I would just think that would be a compromise that they would have to take into consideration.
Yeah. Well,
But I think it's an interesting discussion. I think it's an interesting discussion that should be looked at least, and then figured out. Due diligence.
I would hope that, frankly, John's having a time. I think it's this Friday at his studio, where they're going to be bringing up the Ordinance Review Committee's work. So I'm going to show up Friday night because I want to give our perspective behind why we voted the way we did. It's been the last couple of times it's been a bit one-sided because we weren't invited. And I shared this with John. It's not a secret. We did all this work for 14 weeks, and honestly, some of us, and not just me, it's not just me, taking it personal that it's being treated the way it's being treated.
Yeah.
So hopefully, here I am a bit late. Oh, it's Kurt. That? Yeah, you're a bit late. Jeez.
Yeah, watch Kurt. The replay, buddy. Watch the replay.
I mean,
we're getting ready to sign off here.
You missed all the good stuff too. Yeah, we're like creeping out the door here.
Yeah, we're ready to go. That was a good show.
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah. Good show.
Yeah. So anyway,
all right. Next week we have
two surprises. We have a Joe from Adriana's Cafe coming on.
Oh, nice. Local.
As a matter of fact, I'd like to do a little plug for them right now. If you don't get the chance to go to Adriana's or haven't had the chance, please go. They're right on the way out of town on your left when you're leaving through East Boston in the old Myrack building. Great bakery, great food, great coffee, good people.
Great location.
Great location, nice views. Check it out. Definitely worth it. Please. And Joe's going to come on. We want to hear his story. Him and his brother opened this coffee shop. I don't know much more about it, but eager to hear about it. And then we have the town council president coming on to give us an update.
Excellent.
Yeah, so one not to miss.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So pay attention, right? We keep saying this. All politics starts at the local level. These are some of the most important issues that you deal with. Forget the national stuff, right? We have to get our own house in order. We pay giant property taxes here. So please pay attention. We are going through a potential structure change to the rules and ordinances and the charter, slight structural change. Be heard and vote on it. Pay attention. This is really, really important.
And I say, my final say is 5 Fremont. You got to stand up for these people. Everybody has to unite because it could happen to you. Whether you live in the Highlands, the Point, up in the Circle, doesn't matter. The Maze, doesn't matter. Everybody should be standing side by side with the Cross family and looking for some sort of resolve and protecting their own vested interest in their property, in their neighborhood, because it could happen to you the way Winthrop's going. And on that, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you like it, share it. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you sticking with us. We appreciate you putting up with us. I think sometimes our shows are very bipolar.
Yeah.
I think this show is bipolar. Sometimes it's a rant. And other than that, this was a pretty cool show, pretty chill show. You know? I think it depends on like texting. I think it depends on our mood.
We're human beings. We're imperfect creatures.
It's always an organic conversation, and organic conversations can go in a number of directions. It's like a roller coaster ride. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Share it if you like it. Tell people about it. You are the engine that drives this machine. Without you, it'd just be me talking to Todd. And yeah, well, we do that anyway. So just let you in. We let you in. And we'll be back next week, of course, back on Facebook. We got the technically sound, but you never know. Facebook is a funny world in here. So we'll see you next week with, what's his name?
Joe and Jim.
Joe and Jim Lettieri.